Well, welcome back to Morning Coffee. One of my favorite things is the expert series.
I know you loved it. I do too.
It is. It's just wonderful. And Mondays is an expert series with credentialing and certification.
Yes.
And once again, we have Karen Elzey with us this morning
Yeah.
from Workcred, Associate Executive Director.
Interesting topic.
And Karen, welcome again to Morning Coffee and the expert series.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's always exciting to see the two of you in the morning.
Well, thank you. Same on our end, too. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, first of all, Karen.
Yes, you too. Thanksgiving was great, and now we're looking to move forward for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Good. And looking forward to next year, too. Well, Karen, let's start first of all, but, again, credentialing and certification are so important as an alternative to some kind of formal education. And secondly, we've all, for the whole year, we've explored some of the different opportunities that certification and credentialing actually present to the individuals. So why don't you give us, the viewers, again, an overall view of certification and credentialing and how it fits into everybody's plans?
Right.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. So just as a friendly reminder to the audience, certifications are a type of credential, just like certificates, bachelor's degrees, associate's degrees, or badges. But what makes certifications different is that they are a third-party assessment. So you're actually either taking an exam or you're demonstrating by actually doing the task or the competency to show that you're actually able and have the skills necessary. And certifications are interesting because the exam has to be standardized or the assessment has to be standardized. There is an opportunity to recertify, so it's usually time limited. So a certification may be good for 3 years or 5 years. And if you don't recertify, then you lose that certification. And recertification could be through continuing education or taking another exam. And then a certification can be taken away. So if someone is deemed to be incompetent or they have violated a code of ethics, the organization that issues the certification can actually revoke it. Wow. And so that's what makes certifications different from other credentials. And certifications cover all different levels. So some have no prerequisites. You can just walk in, sit for the exam, see if you pass it. Others have prerequisites, either experience or maybe some type of education. Could be some courses, could be a degree, and could be as advanced as a graduate degree. So a certification can be something for everyone.
You made an interesting point about revoking the certificate for incompetence or whatever. Would that be indefinite? Like if someone's disbarred?
Yes.
So it's indefinite?
Wow. Many certifications actually have a code of ethics, especially in healthcare, right? So not violating patient confidentiality.
Right.
And so it's laid out very clearly. And when the individual takes the certification exam, they agree to that code of ethics. They've actually signed something that says, I will follow this code of ethics. If you are then identified as violating that code of ethics, there is a due process. So there's an investigation and then, potentially some type of hearing. And if you're found that you violated it, they will revoke your certification. And it could be a suspension, so it could be a shorter time limit, or it could be forever. Really depends on the severity of what has happened.
Yeah, understand.
That's so nice, Karen, because number one, it's safety for the public.
Right.
And secondly, it's really it gives any kind of certification credibility, credibility and accountability, which is so important.
Yeah, it's good that they allow. There's a sliding scale there. So if someone's made some mistakes and really are an honest person, but they've fouled up somehow, they're maybe given an opportunity to redeem themselves.
Yes, no, absolutely. And it's very important, and the certification bodies do a very good job to ensure there is due process. So it's not a random, we take this away. There is a process that says, what was the severity, as you said, of the violation? What is the punishment that is equal to what occurred? And how can you, make that right?
Right.
And so it's really very important, and should be a kind of a signal, right, to individuals who are working with those people that there is some code of ethics that they have to abide by.
Right.
And that's all very upfront when an individual goes to take the certification whether or not there is a code of ethics.
Makes sense.
And obviously, if you're taking the certification, you should read that code of ethics, understand it, and make sure that you're willing to abide by
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Hey, Joe, one of the other shows, and Karen, I think I remember one of the other expert shows, they talked about professionals that become credentialed, typically earn on average of, and correct me if I'm incorrect, 25% more pay.
Yeah, that was with IT. And so I think, one of the things we've seen, a lot of certification bodies will do salary surveys of people who hold their certifications.
Right.
And that information is usually posted on their websites where you can see, what's the average range that this person makes. And then Workcred is involved in a project with another organization called the National Student Clearinghouse. And most people probably haven't heard of the National Student Clearinghouse, but it's a nonprofit that's been around for a long time. And what they do is they actually get all of the educational attainment data from colleges and universities around the country. So they have about 97% coverage. It's very high. And what they've started to do, and Workcred is working with them, is to work with certification bodies who would share their information with the National Student Clearinghouse. And then there's an agreement between the National Student Clearinghouse and the U.S. Census Bureau to pull wage data from W-2 forms. And so you wouldn't know individuals' specific wages, because that would be a violation of privacy, but aggregate wages. And so this is really exciting because it would really be the first time where we'd have third-party validated information that says if you earn this certification either alone or combined with some type of degree, this is the salary range that we see people earning. And that would be really exciting for the consumer as this develops, because there would be more information for people to make informed decisions.
Yeah, and to become credentialed.
One of the things I loved about getting involved with Workcred and the experts is the fact that, it's so many different levels. You don't necessarily need a degree, a bachelor's or an associate or whatever, and still get a great job. Or you can combine it, like you said, with higher education. The field is so open. And the other thing is address some of the different certifications that are out there. My mind was blown by the number of opportunities out there that people don't even know about. And I think that's what's important right now.
It's like a sleeping giant.
Yeah, no, I mean, people really, the average person doesn't know a lot about certification, right? It hasn't been as publicized, it's not as familiar to people as college degrees are.
Right.
But you see certifications work in the hospitality industry, for example, like it's called ServSafe, right? To ensure that people are utilizing and handling food properly, certified food handlers. You see certifications, as we've spoken with on the show earlier, in IT. So, right, you have CompTIA certifications, Microsoft, Amazon Web Services have a whole bunch of certifications. So people who are interested in cloud, in cybersecurity, in networking. There's a range of certifications. And then healthcare has tons of certifications, right? All the technicians that people see, many of them are certified. So respiratory therapists, occupational therapists. Some of these certifications are also related to licensure, especially to protect the health and safety. And then manufacturing also has a bunch of certifications as well. Welding certifications, for example, or Manufacturing Skills Standards Council has a range of certifications. And so it really covers all industry sectors, which is super exciting for people who are looking for a job for a first time, or whether they're looking to change jobs. And sometimes a certification, you might have a lot of experience and you find that experience meets the prerequisite of a certification. You can take that certification and potentially move to a different career or advance in the career that you currently have.
That's so interesting. When you think about the health food, when you're talking about food handling, when the health inspectors come in, Joe, to the hospital and so forth, or restaurants, you think if your people are certified in food handling, it would cut down on the amount of fines the restaurants receive, or even a hospital cafeteria, or wherever it might be, where food's being handled. And they could also, I would think, post that certification that our employees are certified.
Yeah, and you've seen this in a lot of states, right, where a certified food protection handler is actually required to be on staff at all times. And that has to do with things like keeping the temperature, making sure food is kept and stored at the right temperature, which prevents bacteria from growing and then foodborne illness. And so there have been some studies that have shown that when you have that certified person on staff, that there are advantages to that, that it cuts down on problems and challenges.
Yes.
And that's what's super exciting to see. And I think we need more research in that area, and that's something that Workcred is looking at to demonstrate that when you have certified people in specific occupations, that it makes a difference. Because we know that a lot of certifications in the United States are voluntary certifications. That's very different than in other countries where it's a more top-down approach. And so in some instances, you have a choice as an individual and as an employer, whether the individual wants to earn a certification and whether the employer wants to require that certification as a condition of employment. And so having more research to demonstrate the value, I think, is going to be really important, and something that we hope in 2022 and beyond we'll start to get more information, and that information can be shared with the broader public.
That's interesting. How about, let's say, I'm thinking out like the insurance, let's say food handlers and restaurants in the food industry, their people are certified. Would that help their liability insurance policy? The premium?
I don't know the answer to that, but you would think that all of these things, if you can demonstrate, right, that you have better safety, that would be positive, and certainly positive to the consumer, right? The consumer wants to know that when they're working with someone, that the person is, has the right knowledge, skills, and abilities, and that they've demonstrated that. And the certification is a signal not only from the individual to an employer that I possess these skills, but it's also a signal to the general marketplace that the person, should be is considered competent and should be trusted.
Yeah, you would think franchise companies that are selling franchises for restaurants and or it could be a coffee company or franchise food. There's a huge market for that for them to know. Like when you're selling a franchise, grandfather this in certification.
Yeah, and sometimes the states, some states have more stringent requirements than others. So in some states, they've said, look, we think this makes a difference. You have to have this in place.
Right.
We're moving that toward the end of the year too, Karen. And what do you see for 2022 and beyond when it comes to certifications?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting things. The pandemic really changed how certifications were administered in some cases. So I think you'll see more certifications that people can get, take the assessments in some type of online proctoring environment. That changed when people couldn't gather anymore because of the pandemic. I think there's an interest in more performance-based assessments. So not just a paper and pencil exam, but being able to demonstrate that you can actually do the tasks. And I think you see a lot of that in the IT industry and cybersecurity, where they can create, simulate environments and have you actually solve problems and see if you can solve it. And so, technology is making that more and more possible. I think we're going to see more and more credentials, not just certifications, but different types of credentials, that are assessing maybe more defined skills or smaller skill sets. So we'll see more badges, more things called micro-credentials, maybe things we haven't even named yet. And I think that has good and bad qualities in the sense that we need to be clear about what all these different credentials are and what they mean and what they signify, so the individual can make the best choice for him or herself in terms of what type of career they want. So I think I think there's, a greater focus on getting data. I think we're going to see more and more pressure to share data so that we understand what's happening with people who get all different types of credentials, not just certifications, but what are the outcomes? Do the people get jobs? What kinds of jobs do they get? What are the wages that they're earning? What other benefits are there to get these credentials? And so I think, we're in a really exciting time when it comes to credentials, but at the same time, for the consumer, it can be quite confusing. And so there's got to be a continual effort going forward to be able to provide the consumer with as much information as possible so that they can make an informed, good decision for their future career.
It's good to have all those statistics combined.
Right. And one of the other things we haven't addressed yet is we talked about certifications helping veterans to take the skills they had in the military and bring them to the private sector. That's so important, and I think the whole credentialing process is so beneficial to that sector.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, veterans earn amazing skills in the military, and sometimes there are challenges for them to translate those skills into the civilian work environment. And there are a lot of great new tools out there that help military folks use language that can take the military information and translate that into more civilian friendly language. And then also, really thinking about, certifications and how they're aligned with military occupations. And, if there are gaps, how those gaps can be filled in education or experience. Or if there are no gaps, how do you make kind of a nice transition to civilian employment? So I think we're going to see more of that. I think that's important. I think that's a great thing you raised, Joe. And I think we're going to see more of just the general combining of credentials for all folks, right? That maybe you get a degree plus the certification, or a certificate and a certification. I think we're going to see certifications that are combined as part of associate's degrees or bachelor's degree programs, so that students earn both kind of that broad-based knowledge and maybe something that demonstrates specific technical skills. And I think we're going to start to see more pathways where an individual can say, if I get certification A, then I can get certification B, and maybe then a certificate, and maybe that leads to an associate's degree. So I think we're going to be more and more creative to recognize, where people have learned that they have skills and how those skills match to different credentials, so that people have more opportunities and they see that there are a lot of different pathways to get a good job. It's not just one way.
That's very encouraging.
It's really encouraging. Why don't you take a minute, Karen, and talk about Workcred a little bit for some of the viewers that have just joined us with the experts thing. Tell us a little bit about Workcred and what they do.
Sure. So Workcred is an organization, a nonprofit affiliate of the American National Standards Institute. It was formed in 2014 with the whole goal of looking at credentials as a whole, specifically focused on quality, labor market value of credentials. And so we're really interested in doing research and projects and understanding, for example, what's the return on investment on a specific credential? Our credentials, we're doing a project in the manufacturing industry right now by interviewing the individual who holds the credential, the supervisor, and the hiring manager to better understand how credentials are used. So, is it a certificate? Is it a degree? Is it a certification? And if they're used, which ones are used? And if they're not used, why? And are there new credentials that need to be developed? So, we're interested in questions like that, and questions such as how can you combine bachelor's degrees or associate's degrees and certifications so that students go through a program and can graduate with more than one type of credential, and the value of having multiple credentials. We have been doing some research more in depth, looking at specific certifications and really understanding all the aspects of those certifications. And in fact, we came out with a paper last fall on understanding certifications, so kind of a primer for just people to understand what a certification is. And we'll be coming out with 5 more papers, one on quality assurance, one on labor market value, career pathways. And so those are, I think, really interesting and exciting as we get more research, because as you mentioned, people don't know a lot about certifications. And so certifications are one of a variety of credentials that we study, but it's one that we think is really important, and we think there needs to be more information that's given to the general public and given to policymakers, so that we better see how these certifications fit into a broader marketplace.
Right. I mean, companies like Costco, you think Costco would certify their employees, or maybe they're already doing that? Just as an example.
I mean, that's possible, right? I mean, you see, Google has done a great job with their certificate program, right? And so individuals can go online at their convenience and go through the process to get a Google certificate. And Google has worked with other corporations who will recognize that certificate. So, the world of employers and the role they're playing, I think, is going to be something that increases in 2022.
That's very interesting.
More companies are going to say, we're going to be the issuer of the certificate or the certification. And then I think the question becomes, what does that mean outside of that particular work environment? Does it translate, like you said, if Costco were to develop a certification or certificate, how does that relate to other stores like Costco? Is it something that a person is portable, can take with them as an employee? We see Amazon Web Services has a variety of certifications that they offer if people are interested in cloud computing, and that's obviously a growing field as well. So you're absolutely right. I mean, the issue of employers and certificates and certifications, we're probably just at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll become a domino effect. A company that large starts that.
And we've seen it a lot in IT, right? I mean, Cisco, Microsoft, they've had certificates and certifications for quite a long time. And the IT industry is probably a little bit ahead in terms of actual, vendors or companies. But I think we're going to start to see it in other areas as well.
Well, that's good. Karen, it's always great talking to you and learning more about certifications. I'm so glad more employers are getting involved in this too. It just shows you the importance of credentialing and certifications. So kind of we're at the point we're going to have to wrap this up today. So would you look in the camera and tell people how they can reach you and who should call you?
Sure. For people who are interested in Workcred and our work and would like to contact us on our website, www.workcred.org.
Terrific. This has been
Karen
very educational.
Elzey, it's always a pleasure, and I can't wait to see you again. And I know you're going to bring a great guest like you always have, if not just yourself. And have a great holiday if I don't talk to you before that.
Yeah, Karen, thank you.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you all again in 2022.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Karen.
Take care.
Good. And
Bye-bye.
we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back.
Yes, sir.